Hi there. I had a question from 3 days with Fair Person a minute ago from my previous stream, where I talked about stress and what to do when your body is under. It's in the middle of a lot of it. So, what impacts heart rate? Everything. Heart rate is not a perfect indicator of anything other than how hard your body is working. Remember, it's no single data point that we care about and need to track on a daily basis, but its heart rate is a pretty good backstop. Meaning, if every day, generally speaking, you're around 11 minutes per mile, but one day you're off, you're like 14 minutes a mile, what happened? I promise you, don't lose fitness overnight. It doesn't work that way. The only way you would lose fitness overnight is if you were injured. And even then, your fitness level itself would be the same. You'd just be injured and unable to capitalize on that fitness. We treat fitness, or we talk about it anyway, like it's this bird that, like a fly that's got to catch it. Oh no, there it is. Oh my God, we got it. It's gone. We got to get it. Oh my God, it's over there now. Get it. 5 minutes. And it's so strange, man. I did a lot of drugs in my 20s, a lot of drugs. And y'all talk about your fitness like my friends would worry about the bag of whatever it was that we were snorting at the time. I like to think it was something nice. It probably wasn't, to be honest with you. But the way they talk about, oh my God, have you seen it? Where'd it go? That is exactly what you sound like to me, the way you worry about your fitness level. Like it's this thing you could lose if you're not careful in a few seconds' time. It just isn't. So in those moments, when you catch yourself starting to spin out a little bit, like, oh my God, I want you to visualize either me in a club running after you, being like, oh my God, did you lose it? Did you find it? Or me just trying to catch flies like a Karate Kid with chopsticks, because that's where you're going. And it's not a good place to be. Fitness doesn't disappear. So in those moments, and I know, Susan, you are really worried about the fact that you think you're lazy. I'm going to counter that with, there's a whole school of thought in psychology that postulates that there is no such thing as laziness. There are no lazy people. Only people that have not yet been inspired to do something, or people that are currently not properly incentivized to execute something. So that person at work that just won't do what you need them to do probably isn't incentivized to do that thing, 1, isn't paid to do that thing, 2, or works with shitty people, 3. And that person doesn't want to be there at all, or is trying to limit the amount of interactions they have with the people around them. So it might not be, maybe it's the wrong person for the position, or maybe you've got a shitty culture. It's one of two things. So when you say to me, like, I don't know if I'm working hard enough because I'm really lazy, I'm like, you ran 40 miles last week. You've been doing, on average, 24 minutes of strength 5 days a week. Does that sound lazy to you? It doesn't to me. You're getting the work done. Maybe you don't jump out of bed, eager little beavers, to do the work. That doesn't make you lazy. It makes you human. It means you're tired. It means you've got a lot of things pulling on you in different directions. That's why I say it's so crucial to keep that workout time on your schedule, because as soon as you give it up, it'll be filled with something, and you better be sure that thing that fills the space is something you really want to have a whole lot of. Yeah? Because once you've given away, it's hard to get it back. That's what I'm talking about. Think about all those things that get in the way of your runs. You're able to run later in the afternoon. A lot of people don't have that luxury. And that is the luxury. So putting it off till later doesn't make you lazy or a pampered pet. It means you've got a lot of demands on your time. You're the only one there to execute them. You work from home. Your husband works from home. You homeschool your kid. That's a lot of people in your home. You don't have a quiet space in your home to yourself. It's amazing you get out to run at all, much less like at the end of a long day. So, are you working hard enough? Yes. Do I need you to hit phone 40? No. It's a cap, not a target. It will never be a target. You will have pace targets if a workout is pace driven. Otherwise, you have heart rate caps. Always, always, always with me. That is never going to change. Ever, ever, ever. Are you working hard enough? I don't know. Are you? I'm worried about specificity, right? So if you say to me, we're training for an ultra, okay, then that means you're going to be upright most of the time, hopefully, moving forward, right? So anything we do to prep you for that ultra needs to have you upright moving forward. I don't care if it's a walk, if it's a run, if it's on an elliptical. I mean, obviously, but if the ultra is on a trail, then we need to be on trails. If the ultra is on a road, we need to be on a road. We need to practice doing that thing over and over and over again. You guys worry about the speed, and I swear to God, that's just not how it works. If I'm not running at race pace, if I'm not getting closer to race pace on a practice day, how do I know if I'm getting fitter? I'm like, if you can't look at your training plan a month back and see how far you've come and that you're doing things you have literally never done before, then I got nothing for you. If the only thing you want to see is speed, we're training for the wrong thing. If speed is the only place where you're going to be happy seeing results, then we need to get the race off the calendar and do this whole thing differently. So, is your easy effort pace going to change? Yeah, due to the amount of stress in your life. Because when your system is compromised, your body does not give a shit where said stress comes from. It does not care if it's from a hard workout, if it's from a big fight with your husband, a big fight with your kid, something with your mom, something at work. Your body doesn't differentiate. Your heart rate goes up. In moments of stress, your heart rate rises, YOLO. Right? And if you've got a lot going on, this is the way you look at your workout. If it's a pace-driven workout that day, and you're under a lot of stress, then you're probably not going to be as fast at heart rate as usual. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say on a great day, your 140 pace, and I'm just doing this to keep the numbers easy for me because I got to go get my kids in a few minutes, and I don't know if you can hear the baby hollering downstairs, giving up on her napping. She's like, fuck that, Mom. So here we go. If your 140 pace, which, as you all know, is your easy effort pace, is usually a 12-minute mile. And then you wake up one day and you're like, wow, my pace today is a 15. What happened? You're probably stressed out. It is no big deal. What do? Whatever the workout is supposed to be. But what do I do with my 10K pace? Same thing we've done for the last 2 years, you guys. No big difference. Your 10K pace is going to be based off of what number you usually get. If you want to slow the whole thing down, you may. You have my permission on a day where you've got this to use 13 minutes for your 10K pace. You also have my permission to use 10 minutes per mile as your 10K pace. I don't give a shit, and neither does your body. But you do. And that's why I give you permission to do both. If you're so stressed out, 13 sounds good, go with it. If you're stressed out at being slower and you need to run this, go with it. What's the training differential? There isn't one. It is the same workout. Because we're training for 50 fucking miles, you guys. Quit spinning out over little details that really don't matter. Because when you're usually this, and this day happens, this is what we call an outlier. It literally, in statistics, in financial analysis, in scientific analysis, first, because it's all based on statistical analysis, right? First we identify the outliers, and then we fucking ignore them. And that's the one thing you guys refuse to do. You see an outlier and you think, oh my God, that's who I am. That's who I really am. Who I really am is coming out right now. How did I not know that this is who I really am? God. It's ridiculous. That's fear fucking with you. Fuck fear and fuck pride. You are training for 50 fucking miles. Stop worrying about the outliers. Do what you were trained to do in graduate school if you went to graduate school and ignore them. Okay? They really don't matter. They really don't. Because how many days like this are you going to have in a training cycle? Quite a few. At the end of the day, you're training for 50 fucking miles. Whether you run this as your 10K pace once or 50 times, impacts nothing, especially if you're able to sleep a whole lot during the taper, because the race is after the legislative session is done, if that happens to be what you do for a living, happens to be at the end of board season, if that happens to be what you do for a living, or happens to fall right after finals if you homeschool your kids and it's finally summer break, right? Right, as long as you're prepared for race day can have a huge differential, right? You might wake up that day and your easy effort pace is a 9. Now that doesn't give you permission to race at 7s, because we gotta have some common sense about it. But that doesn't mean that this is who you really are. And that is what you need to do. So when you're under stress, you need to ask yourself, The first thing you really need to ask yourself, is this thing that I'm worried about, are we really talking about the running, or are we really talking about this thing that is stressing me out right now? You're not lazy. You never were. Any good therapist is going to tell you laziness doesn't exist. It's not a thing. You chose to do this. You were coached, you were loved, you were winning at life. Even if you have several days like this, even if they're in a row, okay? You're good. What do? Now you know what to do. And if this doesn't answer the question, I'm going to start asking some questions of my own. What the fuck are you worried about? Where the fuck did this come from? What the fuck is going on? There are going to be a lot of fucks and a lot of F-bombs in my questions because I don't know where this is coming. Why is this coming now today on a Wednesday? I mean, we've still got a ways till Rocky Raccoon. You girls are doing fine. I told you it wasn't going to be glorious. I mean, meaning it's not going to be like you sail across the finish line, PR the marathon, and then continue. You might. I don't know. I can't promise you anything. All I can promise you is this. You're doing the work. You're going to show up in YOLO at 50K on your way to 50 fucking miles. One of you at least is doing this 18 months after hip surgery. No big deal. Don't lose perspective. Y'all are doing incredible things. Stop worrying about the wrong things, adding stress to stress, right? And looking for ways to pee in your own Cheerios. Because that is just gross.